Hey guys, thank you so much for jumping on over here to the Awesome Padron Show. We just saw The Flash, the very notorious new movie of DC's DC Universe.
Yeah, not only is it controversial, but it's crazy how long it's taken this movie to come out, just in general.
Yeah.
Because I think it was announced way back in 2017, if I'm not mistaken. I know it was a long time ago, and they kept getting delayed and delayed. Then the pandemic happened, and then all the controversies, everything that happened. It got delayed even more.
Yeah.
But it's finally out now.
Amongst everybody who goes to see this, the hardest thing about watching it and stuff, and I can understand people wanting to boycott this movie because of the fact that, Ezra Miller is a horrible person. So I can understand why people may want to boycott, because I think DC or Warner Brothers, Andy Muschietti, have basically said they're not going to get rid of Ezra Miller. Mm-hmm. So, so I can understand the reason behind boycotting this. I just wanted to see it. I go see movies. It was already filmed.
Right, exactly. It's not like the Amber Heard situation to where everything came out about Ezra Miller, then they decided to keep him, which I know they're planning on in the future. But for this movie, everything happened after they already stopped filming. And
after watching this trailer, after hearing all the news about it, after watching DC in general lately, I was honestly not expecting this movie to be great. I was honestly expecting it to be a complete mess of a movie. I haven't been a major fan of Ezra Miller as a Flash. I don't think they've been really bad. Mm-hmm. Per se, they want this character to be almost like the Spider-Man, which in some sense he is. That's who the Flash is, and he's like this kind of comedic character. But he does come off as annoying. The character comes off as annoying at a few times. And
they tried too hard to make him be the comedic character.
They tried too hard to make him be like the quirky character of it, and it usually doesn't work. And this, for me, is the first time, unfortunately, because I was hoping that Ezra Miller wouldn't have done very good, because I just don't think Ezra Miller is a good person. Mm. This is the best Ezra Miller has done as this character.
Right, yeah.
As a Flash.
And I've seen other reviewers mention this, but it also, story-wise, it was kind of genius what they did, to where they had another Ezra Miller younger version that he kind of bounced off of.
This is getting out of hand. Now there are two of them.
Yeah.
And kind of started realizing how he was, and it kind of made him mature more.
Yeah.
Because he's kind of looked in the mirror.
Yeah.
And see how he's been. And so it kind of makes him self-reflect a little bit.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah. I don't want to come out and kind of overhype this movie, because at its core, the writing is fine.
Right.
I don't think there's anything spectacular about the writing. I think it's a fine story. I don't think it's great. I don't think the movie's great.
Yeah.
But I kind of love it.
Yeah. The biggest thing about it is just the enjoyment factor in it. It is just a very enjoyable movie. It's kind of hard for me to dislike it, because it just was really enjoyable to watch. It had a good story, and it was just all the stuff that happened in the movie were just fun to watch.
Mm-hmm, yeah, and I do feel like I said, it was better than I thought it was going to be. It was a lot better. The movie was put together a lot better than I thought it was going to be. Mm-hmm. I thought it was going to be a complete mess, but it's actually a pretty cohesive story. The story, I think, is good. I think the story beats are really good. Mm-hmm. I just think a lot of the writing could have been better on it, if that makes sense. I agree. I feel like it's really weird, because I feel like all the story beats that are in the movie could have stayed really similar. I just think it has a lot to do. I think just a better writer behind it could have made a lot of things hit a lot harder.
Yeah, and that's probably one of my biggest complaints. I mean, there is a few complaints I have, but one of the biggest one is I just feel like a lot of the emotional moments didn't have as much weight and as much punch as I wanted them to, and I'm sure the writers and people who made the movie wanted it to. I just feel like it could have been a little bit better in that aspect. I feel like the writing could have been different to make those moments hit harder, but still overall it was still enjoyable. The story was good enough as it is. But it's honestly a movie where I don't have too many like glaring issues overall.
Yeah, and another thing to add to the fact that there's two not Barry Jenkins,
He made this movie.
Yeah, Barry Jenkins. Yeah, he went from Moonlight and then jumped over to the Flash.
I feel like he is making a movie where it's like, really, he's making that? Oh, it's the Mufasa movie.
Oh yeah,
yeah, the prequel to the live action Lion King movie.
Wow,
Yes.
that is a weird jump. He went from Academy Award winning film to the prequel of one of the worst Disney live action movies.
Yeah, funny how life goes.
But yeah, like I was saying, but like going back to the fact that there's two Barry Allens in this movie, in the way you said it really worked with it, I was not expecting it to work that well. Because, like we said, the character of Barry Allen in the past in the DC universe has been a little too quirky to the point of being nearly annoying. And so doing this, I also like the fact that they didn't try to hide the fact that that's how he was written in the past,
right.
in the past few movies. They're like, it's already done. We already made him that annoying kind of character. We can't go back. So now what we're going to do is we're going to show how much he has matured. We're going to show him here and show him how he used to be in the past. And I really do like the way it really worked, because whenever you had that, it's almost like they balanced each other out.
Right.
The annoying Barry Allen that we've known from past DC and the more mature Barry Allen we know here. Was that done on, well, obviously it was done on purpose for this movie, but like, was that the intention and the past of Barry Allen's character? I don't know. But they really worked in how they balanced each other out really well. Yeah,
and also just a random note, it is kind of interesting because there's a whole thing with Zack Snyder's Justice League, and then the theatrical version.
Yeah,
and it seems like they kind of went with the theatrical version. I mean, I guess it's not surprising because they probably were pretty far into this movie whenever the Zack Snyder Justice League came out, but because spoilers for Zack Snyder's Justice League, he turned back time in that movie.
Oh yeah, he did. Yeah.
But then this movie, it was like he was learning that he could do it for the very first time. So it's kind of interesting just seeing that how they went with the theatrical version. But yeah. And another minor thing that I really loved in this movie is I really loved his suit in this movie. I mean, I know a lot of people have hated his previous suits in the previous movies, but I honestly didn't really mind it. It looked pretty cool for what it was, but this was really comic accurate and it just looked really cool. I just love the yellow that they had within the suit and everything, and it's funny that they changed his lightning to yellow because in the previous movies it's been blue, but I think it had to do with his suit because whenever he didn't have his suit on, I think it turned back to blue. But it was just cool, just how cool the suit looked in the movie.
Yeah, and another thing to add, and I just want to say, we're not going to get into spoilers right now, but if you haven't even seen the trailer, if you've somehow not had any news on this movie, right? you don't know, you haven't seen the trailer, you haven't seen any news about it, I am going to bring up something that was in the trailer, something, so I don't consider it a spoiler, but if you try to stay away from that, then just skip over this part. I really do like the way that Michael Keaton's Batman was implemented in this movie. It didn't overshadow anything. It didn't feel like he was just there and gone. He actually had, and it's kind of like a really high praise that I had of, if you haven't seen and you haven't heard anything about Spider-Man No Way Home, here's a warning on that. But it's kind of a similar praise to like the way they did Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield in that movie. They weren't there for too long. They didn't overshadow. I know some people say that they did, but they didn't overshadow. They weren't just a in and out kind of thing. They were an integral part of the movie. Same thing with Batman in this.
Yeah, and especially because with the trailers, it really made it seem like he was going to be in a lot of the movie. And I wasn't necessarily scared because it still would have been fun, but I do like that they had the central focus on Barry Allen, and he was brought in later in the movie, but still had enough to do in the movie where he wasn't just shoehorned in the movie.
Yeah, and I also like that the Batman scenes with Michael Keaton were actually really fun. They were really good scenes, and it's just cool being able to see Michael Keaton's Batman do things that they couldn't have made him do in the past. With like CGI and stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's another thing that the director of this movie, Andy Muschietti, who made the It movies that came out here recently, he was just announced here recently that he's going to be directing the new Batman movie that's going to be in the new DCU that James Gunn is making. Because that's another thing about this movie. I thought it was just going to be a movie where they just put it together really quickly as the last movie in the old Zack Snyder DCEU, and they're just gonna like push it out into theaters. So that's another thing I was thinking about this movie. But going back to it, he's gonna be directing the new Batman movie. It's gonna be in the new DC universe, and I'm actually really excited about that because he did really good with the Batman scenes that were in this movie, the few that were in this movie.
And honestly, what's so fantastic about this movie, and I'm not gonna get the spoilers here, but like, there was just a few things that were added in this movie that I was like, I was not expecting that.
Exactly.
But man, am I happy that that's in there.
Right.
And I would have never thought I would have been happy with that.
Right.
Like,
yeah, because I didn't watch too many reviews before I saw the movie, but I watched a couple, and this one specifically, it was Chris Tuckman. He talked about how the ending, there's something that happened that made his whole theater cheer, and it's something he really wasn't expecting, all that. And so like in my mind, I was just like, there's so many ideas going around in my mind of what was going to happen. And then whenever I saw it, it was something that I didn't even think about.
Yeah.
And it was like so different than what I was expecting, but still so great.
Yeah. I wish my theater would cheered. My theater was just so silent.
Yeah, mine kind of was like that too, but mine was kind of hard to tell if people were cheering because the rows were really separated.
Oh, well, yeah.
There's a theater I'd never really seen a movie in before.
Now, to me, there wasn't really any glaring issues with this movie. I think a lot of the issues were very minor, but it was mostly had to do with just the writing could have been better. Like, the writing wasn't great, you know. It was just a really, really fun movie. But if there's one issue I think was obvious for me, and this I wouldn't really consider a spoiler, but in some ways maybe. So if you don't want to hear this, it's fine. It also has to do with the trailer because it's in the trailer. This character's in the trailer too. But Supergirl is in this movie. She was in the trailer. But if there's one problem I had with her, I do feel like she was nothing more than a plot device. You know, which is sad because I actually found her to be like an interesting aspect of the movie. Right. I found her to be an interesting character, and I didn't really think she did anything to be. I mean, she technically did, but like there was nothing big that she did. You know.
Yes, it is almost like she was just there to just like introduce the idea of a multiverse.
Yeah,
and there's something else too, but it was just there was no really like character for her. There's no like arc or anything, and not every character in the movie has to have an arc. But I feel like if they're gonna have her in the movie, they could have done more with her.
Yeah, like she didn't have to have an arc, but like she just kind of felt like she was there to kind of push the plot forward. Right. I don't want to say she is as bad as something like Adam Warlock in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, you know, because she was a cool character. Like, I actually really did like the character, and I really hope that maybe we'll see her later on down the road in another DC movie, but like they just didn't do a lot with her. All
right, now we're gonna be going into some spoiler stuff, so if you don't want anything spoiled for you, you can skip to this timestamp right here. But here we go. The first spoiler thing I want to bring up is obviously going to be, and we talked about it already kind of in non-spoiler section, but it's the Nicolas Cage Superman, which if y'all don't know, if you are confused by that, Tim Burton, after he made the Michael Keaton Batman movie, he was going to make a Superman movie.
Like it was as sure as possible without being sure.
They even had a whole like costume testing and everything. So this footage of Nicolas Cage in the Superman costume. Nicolas Cage was going to play Superman, and it's just like crazy that they actually had him in this movie.
I was so happy when that happened.
Yeah, right? Yeah, like literally as soon as I saw the Superman cape and long hair, I was like, "Oh my god, is it Nicolas Cage?" Yeah, I really hadn't heard that he was in this movie at all. It just like something that just like popped in my head. Because like I said, like the whole time after I heard Chris Simon talk about there's some stuff at the end that really made his theater cheer. Like I was rattling stuff in my head. Yeah. And then as soon as I saw the Superman cape and the long hair, it just like snapped in my mind. Like clicked in my mind. I was like, oh my god, Nicolas Cage.
You know, it's funny, whenever that happened, I saw that, I was like, no, that's not No, they're not doing that, are they? And then they showed him. I was like, oh my god, that's amazing.
Yeah, and then they also showed Christopher Reeve Superman, and it's cool because his universe apparently has a Supergirl now.
Yeah,
they showed a few other different iterations of Superman and stuff, which is pretty cool.
And what was kind of irritating for me is I'm so glad I didn't see this before the movie because I got something else. I got the George Clooney thing kind of spoiled for me.
Oh, really?
Kind of. But I'm so glad I didn't see about the Nicolas Cage thing because that was actually spoiled by Andy Muschietti. Yeah, like a little, but like before the movie came out.
Yeah, I think it was like back in like May 24th or something like that. It was like the end of May that he said it. It's like this movie came out middle of June.
I don't know why he couldn't have just waited to say that because he was basically saying like he was so happy to work with Nicolas Cage and all that stuff in the movie. And I'm like, man, I mean. Like it was a small scene. It was a small scene. Like it was a small part of it.
Yeah.
And it was also like CGI'd, and stuff like that. But still, like it was just a cool part that I'm so glad I didn't get spoiled for me, and I feel bad for anybody who actually did get that spoiled for them.
Exactly. It would have also been cool if they actually had him like say lines and a little more in the movie, but it's still cool to see. It's still pretty awesome that they brought that in.
Yeah. And then another thing that happened, which you can never tell me before this that I was going to be excited about. I was going to be happy and excited when I saw this. But George Clooney as Bruce Wayne is in this movie.
Hi, Freeze. I'm Batman.
Yeah, the very last shot of the movie.
Yeah, I was just, whenever that happened, I was like, man, why am I so happy about this?
I know, right? Exactly. Like, yeah, it really got me hyped just saying it for some reason. Maybe it's just nostalgia because that's the movie that came out closest to when I was born. And, like, it's like so exciting to just see him play Bruce Wayne in this movie. And it is kind of interesting because my parents were even wondering after the movie why they didn't have a Christian Bale or Robert Pattinson in this movie. But I was kind of thinking about it, but it's probably just because those two Batman are a lot more grounded. So they probably just want to keep, even though they're technically still part of the multiverse, they probably just want to keep those separate. Especially the Robert Pattinson Batman, he's still going on. So they probably just want to keep those two things separate.
True, yeah, that makes sense.
One of the main things I really do love about this movie is the story, which is based on the Flashpoint Paradox comic book, which is kind of sad also because if they went more comic accurate to the story of the Flashpoint Paradox, Jeremy Johnson, Jeffrey Dean Morgan, and Lauren Cohan, they're both in The Walking Dead, but they both played Ben Affleck's Bruce Wayne's parents in Batman vs Superman. And the Flashpoint Paradox, Bruce Wayne's dad becomes Batman, and then his mom becomes Joker. So it would have been cool to have seen them. Yeah. But I mean, I still like this movie. It just would have been cool if they went that route.
Yeah.
And it's also really cool because in the middle of the movie, they made a reference to how Eric Stoltz was originally going to play Marty McFly in the Back to the Future movies. And they even had test footage where he actually acted in the scenes. And I thought they were going to actually show that footage in the movie and be...
Yeah, I thought they were too,
yeah, like be the way... of how they proved to Barry that he's actually in another universe. But it's just kind of cool how they made that kind of obscure reference. Kind of obscure. It is also funny that they made it a point to have a scene where they explain how their time travel rules are different than the MCU's. Like they had Michael Keaton have that whole explanation with the spaghetti. And they even had him make a diagram with the spaghetti by like bending it. Very similar to the diagram that they show in the MCU of the different timelines that are created whenever you change something. And another one of my big negatives is that there were, which the director Andy Muschietti has even said that the CGI in some parts of the movie were bad intentionally.
Yeah, I think specifically to the Speed Force.
Yeah, like it was supposed to be because it was like in Barry's perspective, so everything was gonna look all weird and all that.
Yeah.
And that really does make sense to me. Even watching the movie before I knew that he had said that, I was like, at first I was like, that CGI looks kind of bad, but then I was like, well, this is kind of not really a real thing that he's seeing, so it makes sense. But there were other parts in the movie that wouldn't make sense, that it was in Barry's perspective where the CGI looked bad as well, to where it kind of took me out of the movie a little bit. But there were a lot of scenes that also had really good CGI. So.
Yeah, I will say the CGI was a lot better than I was expecting to. Honestly, DC has come a pretty good way from the movies they used to make, because their movies used to be so ugly.
Yeah.
Like disgusting looking.
Right.
Like they really were awful. Like the color grading, there was CGI that was just terrible CGI in the background. This movie actually was a pretty good looking movie, and I will give it that as well.
And it is also kind of interesting how they're going to do it moving forward, because James Gunn is now taking over the DCU, the DC universe, and he's restarting it. He's like doing a whole new thing. So this movie didn't necessarily hit the reset button like I was expecting it to.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of curious if they're just gonna like be the end of it, or if they're gonna try to work it in somehow. I don't know. It's just interesting to see how they move forward.
We are gonna say that The Flash is 75% awesome. Well, guys, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also, comment and let us know what you thought about The Flash.
And don't forget to follow us on social media. We have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, all at The Awesome Padron Show. And we both have individual TikToks, which we'll put down below.
I'm not as active on mine as I probably would like to be, but hopefully sometime soon I will be. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and you will see us later.